Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. Are there any good mornings in caps, maybe, in the chat this morning? Good morning! I am the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. My pronouns are she and Asia, and I am serving Cedar Lane as your associate minister, along with my colleagues, the Reverend Abi Janamanchi, Senior Minister, Reverend Archie Turner, Community Minister, and Dayna Edwards, Intern Minister. If you're new with us this morning, I hope you will let us know in the chat. And whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been with us for a lifetime, we welcome you. Whoever you are, whomever you love, we welcome you. Wherever you're joining us from, and however you arrived at our worship time together, we welcome you. Whatever your beliefs, gender identity and expression, immigration status, or political views, we welcome you. Thank you for taking a chance to worship with us today. You are invited, if you're new to us, to fill out the newcomer form, which will be in the chat. And if you've been attending for a while and are interested in becoming a member of this religious community, please reach out to Nicole Causey, our membership coordinator. Our pastoral visitors are also here to support you. They are an extension of the ministry team and are available in the chat today and always by phone at 301-493-8300 at extension 208. If you leave a message, someone will be back with you shortly. I also want to offer you a quick reminder. We are a part of the Potomac Partnership. Our Potomac partners gathered together to create an amazing post-election vigil this week. We created 24 hours of prayer together, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what the Potomac Partnership is doing to support all of the congregations involved. There's a Story Gatherers project happening, and if you look at this past week's e-news, there's a note about how your story can be gathered and just 7 short questions for you to answer. So I hope you'll take a look at that and engage in this Story Gatherers project to support the Potomac Partnership. It is a time where there has been dancing in the streets and cowbells ringing. There's lots of celebrating happening in our country. There's also lots of strife, and we are approaching Veterans Day, the time where we honor those who are willing to sacrifice their lives for the freedoms that America promises. On Veterans Day, we honor current and past veterans of our nation's uniformed services and their families for their service. And when we are in our sanctuary together on Veterans Day and we acknowledge all those who've served, it is a joy to see waves of people rising in body or spirit. And as we do this roll call today, I'm imagining in my heart everyone rising in body or spirit as we express our enduring gratitude with words and with actions to all who've served, whatever their role, wherever their service took them. We say thank you to those whose service was brief and to those who've made a career of their service. We say thank you to those who remember their service with fondness and to those whose time and service still haunts them. We say thank you to those who returned to us largely intact, who found jobs, started families, and continue to find ways to serve their communities. We say thank you to those who returned with brokenness so deep that they continue to struggle to find a role or even a home in our communities. Our roll call this morning reminds us that these are not nameless people who serve. It's quite easy to say that those who died in our wars gave their lives so that the rest of us could enjoy their freedom, and it is harder to honor those who died and those who served by resisting the erosion of freedom and by working to prevent war. As I name those of national service, those with which you identify, I invite you to share your name and your rank and your branch in the comments. We honor those who served during World War II. We honor those who served in the Korean War. We honor those who served during the Vietnam War. We honor those who served during the First Gulf War. We honor those who served during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. We honor those who served during peacetime. We honor all those who currently serve in the uniformed military services, active and reserve. We honor the family members of anyone currently serving in the uniformed military services, as well as all of the family members of anyone who has served in the uniformed military services when they were active or reserve. And we also name and call out those who have a friend or a neighbor who has served in the military, which means at this point, we've called on every single one of us. We honor your service and that of your family member, your friend, or your neighbor, and the integrity and the courage of the choice to serve. We honor the sacrifices that have been made in service to this country and say thank you.
Good morning, Cedar Lane family. It's a beautiful and bright and new day. I'm Janamanchi. My pronouns are he, him. And I invite you at this time to center yourselves for a time of prayer, reflection, or meditation as I share these words. Spirit of life and love moving in as and through all things, be with us now. Be with us now. We have endured the hard night of struggle for our nation's soul, for lo, these many months, and find ourselves looking inward to each other, to all founts of wisdom for guidance. Some of us have experienced moments of rejoicing, for glass ceiling shattered, for a sense that our chosen candidate has prevailed. And some may be in deep mourning for the loss of the person they supported and believed in. For those who are rejoicing, we see you. For those who are grieving, we see you. Where do we go next? How do we mend the wounds of this nation born out of an audacious and tentative experiment in democracy? How do we move toward a more just world? On this day, on all days going forward, let us look to ourselves, into each other's eyes, to the skies, as we recognize that we must find ways to join together as never before if we are to build the future we dream of. Alone, we will surely fail. Separated, we face defeat. But together, summoning up those better angels Lincoln spoke of long ago, we may yet redeem our country's greatest hope of one nation, respectful and loving of all people, to give birth again to the dream. Let us join now in worship and prepare for the work that is to come.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie Williams. I use she, her pronouns, and I am your worship associate for today's service. I'm lighting my chalice in College Park, Maryland, and as I read the chalice lighting words, I invite you to share in the chat where you're lighting your chalice from. So today, let us light the chalice for freedom. True freedom is not jealous. True freedom is not envious. True freedom is not spiteful. True freedom does not desire to restrict the rights of others. True freedom knows not a selfish thought. It knows not how to threaten. To sense true freedom is to know that your win is my glory and your suffering is inextricably tied to my own. For the sum of all that is holy shines far beyond the tools of our evolving democracy. From party jingles to picket signs, the sum of all that is holy is found in our collective desire to know freedom not as a political slogan, but as a way of life. The chalice is now lit, and may it guide us to create a just world where freedom is true for all. Thank you.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your might. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your might. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your might. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Hello, dear ones. This morning, with our theme about healing, I've been wondering about times when you might have felt so sad or so hurt that you wanted to put your heart in a bottle to try to keep it safe and to try to protect it. And I wonder what happens when you feel like you're ready to get your heart out of the bottle. I wonder if you can, or if you might need some help. So I'm going to read you a story about a person who tried to put their heart in a bottle and what happened when they tried to get it out. The Heart and the Bottle by Oliver Jeffers. Once there was a girl, much like any other, whose head was filled with all the curiosities of the world, with thoughts of stars, with wonder at the sea. She took delight in finding new things. Until one day, she found an empty chair. Feeling unsure, the girl thought the best thing was to put her heart in a safe place, just for the time being. So she put it in a bottle and hung it around her neck. And that seemed to fix things at first. Although, in truth, nothing was the same. She forgot about the stars and stopped taking notice of the sea. She was no longer filled with all the curiosities of the world and didn't take much notice of anything other than how heavy and awkward the bottle had become. But at least her heart was safe. It might have never have occurred to the girl what to do had she not met someone smaller and still more curious about the world. There was a time when the girl would have known how to answer the little girl, but not now, not without her heart. And it was right at that moment she decided to get it back out of the bottle, but she didn't know how. She couldn't remember. And nothing seemed to work. The bottle couldn't be broken. It just bounced and rolled right down to the sea. But there, it occurred to someone smaller and still curious about the world that she might know a way. And it just so happened she did. And the heart was put back where it came from. And the chair wasn't so empty anymore. But the bottle was. The end.
Incredibly rich and beautiful story, Dayna. We are in an incredibly emotional time. Some of us feel like we're finally able to breathe again after a period of being incredibly tense. Some of us have been celebrating. Some of us are exhausted. Some of us are celebrating and exhausted, and a whole host of other emotions that we might be feeling right now. And it's important to remember not to put our hearts in a bottle and try to close ourselves off from those emotions, and to remember that healing comes when we're in touch with our feelings and when we commit to being in multi-generational community. Personally, I wept yesterday. I'm talking a whole body, soul deep kind of cry. I wept with hope. I wept with joy. I wept because, oh my God, the first female vice president has been elected, and she is Black and South Asian and the daughter of immigrants. Can I get a holy yes and an amen? I was watching social media as people reported being able to breathe. My neighbors were cheering, cowbells were ringing. Stacey Abrams was being lifted up with a woo-hoo for her incredible stick-to-itiveness and her efforts. And it felt good to celebrate. I also wept for our country. The nearly 250,000 people who've died from COVID-19 and their families who are grieving. I wept for those out of work and struggling, the poor who are becoming poorer, families separated at the border, children stuck in cages, people dying in the desert, big oil offshore drilling that's caused thousands of earthquakes and is devastating Puerto Rico, and the West Coast, which still smells like ash. I wept for our country, which is literally torn in half. Lies, deceit, fear-mongering, and racism are rampant. They've always been there. But the Trump administration gave them a voice in the White House. Right-wing militias are emboldened by the highest office in the nation. They were told to stand by and repeatedly given go orders. I wept because regardless of who is elected, the work before us is massive. A woman of color, praise all that is holy, will be one of the two most powerful people in the country. And at the same time, Black men will still be disproportionately incarcerated and murdered. A box has not been checked, America. We have not made it. And so I wept. I wept for the poll workers and the vote counters, the democracy defenders, the Black, Indigenous people of color, and trans beloveds who are even more at risk than the already high risks of living because of the packed courts. I wept for Dr. Fauci and the scientists who've been threatened. I wept for our LGBTQIA siblings who fear for their right to exist and their right to marry being on the line. I wept for all who fear access to abortion and Plan B. And I wept for our planet, which is dying by our hands. I wept for all of you, everyone at Cedar Lane. I hear your pain and your anguish, the grief from the losses you've had this year. Democrats and Republicans and independents, I hear your struggles and your pain, and I hear your joy and your hope too. I wept for my children. My oldest son, who can't jog in his Ashburn, Virginia neighborhood without police stopping him. For my youngest son, who said recently, I don't understand why Kamala isn't president. She has more sense than anyone. And how rage took seed in him, in his heart, as he processed the injustice of it all when I explained to him how racism and misogyny factored into her run for the president, failing. And how racism and misogyny affect all of us who are women of color, our Black and trans siblings even more so. I wept for my fierce and amazing mother who was driving down the street a little over a week ago, my mother who almost nothing rattles, who felt fear when a parade of Trump nationalists with gun racks and Confederate flags blazing surrounded her car and others in their parade and did not let cars pass. The message clear that the militia was at the ready. And I wept for myself, the injustices that affect me directly and indirectly, and also the way my universalist faith is being tested. If you've read an email from me, you know I sign it, believing in you. And it's more than a phrase or a common email signature that's casually sent. It is a promise and a statement of faith. That guiding principle of believing in you keeps me curious and wondering. It keeps me vital and alive, wowed by starlight. And whether you or I agree or disagree, I vow to believe in you, in the saving nature of the divine, in you, in me, in each human heart, and by all that is holy. That faith is tested hard. I want to put my heart in a bottle, and I know some of you do too, so that we don't have to feel the hard things. I want to rage at how I don't want to talk about unity right now. I want to rage about how a white man will be president no matter what, because this country would not elect a woman, and especially not a woman of color at this time in history, no matter how amazing she is, and it hurts. I yearn for that bottle, for my heart, to numb for a moment, even if I know I must carry that burden in the form of a weight on my neck. But here's the thing. I refuse to let the mistakes people make take my faith from me, and you don't have to either. No one can take our zest for life or take a moment of celebration from us. Our vulnerability gives us strength when we are present to it. I've been thinking a lot about this short phrase in the Bible. Jesus wept. Jesus wept. The embodiment of love. Jesus wept. His heart broke at times too. He was present to his pain, and then he got back to the work of social change, to loving all the people, working to change hearts. And we can take a lesson and keep at the work too. Reverend Abi and I have had the pleasure of working with a small group of wonderful journeyers as we explored Parker Palmer's book, Healing the Heart of Democracy, which was so important during this time because, oh, democracy is messy, and don't we know it. But Palmer, he shares some ways to go forward at a time like now, to lean into the truth of where we are and move through fear and division. But it requires our full participation. His first and second habits of the heart, which are a bit of a blueprint, remind us that we are interdependent. And I think also of the Poor People's Campaign and Bishop Barber's work on fusion politics. Where are the places that we can see we need each other and work together for change across the aisle? Where can we join together so we stop thinking in terms of us and them and think more of a collective us? So our work is in finding common ground, cutting through fear and pain to enact change. Palmer's work, like today's story, reminds me that healing must come through multi-generational relational work being at the center of community. How can Cedar Lane live into being that beloved multi-generational community that is diverse in all ways, including thought? How can we as a community foster the skills needed to change our hearts, the hearts of our community and the world, so that we may be united in our commitments to each other, to comunidad, the community, and committed to the work that the interdependent web calls us to do, while also holding our personal voice? I'd love to see your thoughts in the chat, or if you want to send me an email, please do. And with your thoughts, please share one action step that you will commit to today to bringing this hopeful and glorious transformation into being, because beloved, community can be realized. But will you roll up your sleeves so we can work on it together? Will you resist bottling your heart, be present to your feelings, celebrate the successes, shed your tears instead of holding them, and choose to take one more movement together today and every day for hope, for justice, for transformation? May we go forward together, bravely, in the presence of the holy messages of our hearts. May we wonder at the stars and build a beloved, multi-generational and multicultural community where there is love and there is justice for all. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
One more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word. We will say one more word till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer. We will say one more prayer till every prayer is there by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you, Reverend Katie, for your powerful reflection. Each time we gather for worship, we set aside time to expand the caring ministry of our congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the heart of our religious community. Our hearts hold the many joys and sorrows that we bring and share and hold close in our hearts. We hold in our circle of caring those whose primary spiritual practice is parenting, those who live with grief or chronic pain, with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illness or addictions, who care for family members in ill health, who are facing job loss and financial insecurity. We hold in our circle of caring those who we now name within our Cedar Lane community. We celebrate with Diane and Perry Seifert, who are celebrating the birth of granddaughter Ella Frances Seifert, who was born on October 22nd, to son Andrew and daughter-in-law Ella and her big brother Otto. We send healing wishes to our youth coordinator Tiffany Lewis as she recuperates from a medical procedure. We hold Debbie Trent and her family in the circle of caring as they mourn the loss of Debbie's mother, Sylvia Trent. We hold in our hearts Charlene and Bill Zelmer and their family, who are mourning the passing of their nephew, Michael James Belsom. And we hold in our hearts Lieutenant Colonel Guilford Queen, who is mourning the loss of his friend Darwin Curtis, the last known Liberty ship engineer who served during World War II. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by violence and calamities in our nation and in our world, and in the COVID-19 pandemic that to date has affected nearly 10 million people and taken the lives of over 240,000 loved ones in the United States. This week, our hearts are with the people of Central America as residents of Honduras, Guatemala, and Costa Rica deal with deadly and devastating flooding and landslides from Hurricane Eta. We offer hearty congratulations to the new President-elect Joseph Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Devi Harris, the first Black Indo-American woman, daughter of immigrants, on their historic win in Tuesday's election. We celebrate the power of more than 160 million people who voted for both candidates despite unprecedented obstacles, and the many who were engaged in the work of democracy, making calls, sending postcards and texts, knocking on doors, serving as poll workers and election judges and monitors, and witnessing for democracy and fair elections. Holding them, holding all the joys and sorrows we bring, I invite us to join our hearts in prayer or meditation. Would you pray with me? Nameless one of many names, ground of our being, hope of our hope, be with us now. Be with us as we come together with our joys and sorrows, elation and trepidation, hope and dejection. May we learn to see through all that gets in our way and holds us apart. Particularly now, in this season that has been filled with so much division, so much rancor, so much anger, so much fear, so much anxiety, so much loss. May we learn to see through the red and blue, so opaque and so artificially smeared over the surface of a map. To see that below there are simply human beings, real, alive, imperfect, and incomplete, conflicted and in need, as are we all. May we work through, refuse the allure, temptation, and ease of demonizing another, and seek to root our lives, our words, and our actions in love and in compassion. Whatever losses we grieve, whatever victories we celebrate, may we remember that our work is not done, that it is neither complete if we win, nor hopeless if we lose, but ongoing no matter what. Through all our challenges, through all our triumphs, O Spirit, may we find the strength and the wisdom to be people whose hands work to repair, to renew, and to take care, who reach out in times of fear and distrust, who lead in efforts to heal, who love and learn, who give and listen, who never stop building the beloved community we know we can yet be. May we find the courage and heart strength to live through the coming days, holding a vision big enough to be worthy of our commitment and hopeful enough to be worthy of our love. May we discover space in our spirit to hear love's call and move forward together, committed to listening more deeply, speaking the truth courageously, and loving mightily in service of a life larger than our own. In the name of all that is holy and life-affirming, we say, Shalom, Salam, Sat Sri Akal, Om Shanti, Amen, blessed be. As we enter
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, 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 yeah.
Each Sunday, we're invited to consciously engage in the flow of giving and receiving as a spiritual practice through our offering. We have an opportunity to share our personal abundance with our faith community as our hearts are filled with gratitude for all that we receive: connection, challenge, inspiration, beauty, and the list goes on. Our offering is a living embodiment of our covenant with each other, with ourselves, and with the larger community. You're invited to give by electronic means, maybe texting, online giving, PayPal, or a QR code, or you can mail a check to the church. Today, our offering will support the Wreaths Across America project. Lieutenant Colonel Guilford Queen will tell you about this important program, and I invite you to give generously. Thank you for your generosity.
Good afternoon, Cedar Lane Unitarian Church members. My name is Guilford Queen, and I'm the current squadron commander for the Parkland Cadet Squadron, an academic element of the Parkland Magnet Middle School for Aerospace Technology. The squadron is also part of a larger U.S. Air Force endeavor called the Civil Air Patrol. We're pleased and humbled that you have invited us to speak on behalf of the Wreaths Across America program, which is a nationally chartered organization dedicated to providing wreaths for the graves of military service people once a year nationwide. The Parkland Cadet Squadron participates in this program to help provide funding for buying the wreaths, encouraging our cadets and officers to participate in the wreath-laying programs, and finally, as a fundraising mechanism for the squadron. Your charitable donations will help us and honor others. You will also help us to teach students who volunteer to be cadets the tenets of virtue, honor, and service to our community and nation. The squadron goes to great lengths to ensure cadets learn and know the value of service to others. Your generous donations will enhance our efforts to honor military service persons and provide our squadron with funding. Please consider us during this service and during the passing of the plate. Thank you.
What is America to me? A name, a map, the flag I see, a certain word, democracy. What is America to me? The house I live in, a plot of earth, a street, the teachers and the nurses and the people that I meet, the children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races, all religions, that's America to me. All races, all religions, that's America to me. The place I work in, the worker by my side, the little town or city where that worker may have died. The howdy and the handshake, the air of feeling free, the right to speak my mind out, that's America to me. The right to speak our minds out, that's America to me. The things I see about me, the big things and the small, the little corner cafe, and the house a mile tall, the wedding and the churchyard, the laughter and the tears, the dream that's been growing for 250 years, the town I live in, the street, the house, the room, the pavement and the city and the garden all in bloom, the church, the school, the ballpark, the million lights I see, but especially the people, that's America to me. Especially the people, that's America to me.
America, You great unfinished symphony, you sent for me. You let me make a difference, a place where even orphan immigrants can leave their fingerprints and rise up. These are part of the closing words from Alexander Hamilton in the musical Hamilton, my favorite, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. America, you great unfinished symphony. Yes, yes, that is America to me. This country, America, an unfinished symphony. This country produced my family, Caribbean and European, Christian and Jewish and humanist. This country, this beloved unfinished symphony called America created jazz and the blues and country music and hip hop and rock and roll. That is America to me. It's not just the church down the street, but the fact that on one street in our nation's capital, you can find a church and a synagogue and a mosque and a temple. That is America to me. A great unfinished symphony. These lines from the musical lift up all the potential of the grand experiment of America and expand the narrative of who's included in the story of the founding of our nation. Orphans and immigrants are included. And these words that I love so much, they also perpetuate a myth of America. The myth that anyone can come to America and rise up. In a genius moment of double entendre, Miranda leaves us to guess at his meaning. Does he mean rise up like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or rise up like rebel against tyranny, or both? But I digress. The fact is, Alexander Hamilton could rise up by his bootstraps and in rebellion because he was white. And while he may not have been landed gentry, like some of his Constitutional Convention peers, he was, by all accounts, gifted with words and given opportunities that would not have come his way if he had had more melanin in his skin. In his book, Healing the Heart of Democracy, Parker Palmer takes on the founding myths of America. Our primary founding myth can be found in the words that begin the Declaration of Independence. A myth that was false as soon as the ink was dry on Thomas Jefferson's pen. You know the words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sometimes I wonder how Jefferson could have written those words and then gone to sip tea that was served by men and women he had personally enslaved. How could someone so eloquent be so unaware of the humanity of the people who surrounded him? Palmer writes, if we remain clear about the gap between America's aspiration and its reality, our founding myth can continue to energize movement toward our goal. But when we imagine or pretend that it describes America's reality, the myth becomes an enemy of its own aspiration. He goes on to say, if we want to reclaim our democracy, we need to do the challenging heart work of examining our myths, seeing how far they are from our reality of our national life, and then reclaiming their embedded visions and doing the hard work necessary to bring reality closer to them. Palmer challenges the American as a melting pot myth that Miranda seems to hold up in Hamilton by noting that embedded in the melting pot myth is a vision of America has named e pluribus unum, the notion that out of human diversity can come one people. This aspiration, he says, does not mean suppressing diversity. It means transcending the fear that leads to suppression so that we can celebrate the creative potentials inherent in the many who come together as one, honoring the uniqueness as well as the commonality. I grew up on these myths, and I so very much wanted them to be already true. I believed in the myths of America so much that when I was 16, I went to be a congressional page for the United States House of Representatives. For 6 months, I lived and worked on Capitol Hill, carrying packages, letters, and messages back and forth to members of Congress. When I was on Capitol Hill, I fell in love with the aspiration of these myths as I watched the sunrise while I attended school every morning at the Library of Congress. I remember sitting in awe of myself, a poor kid from the projects rising up, working hard, now rubbing elbows with the likes of Congressman John Lewis. I was too young, too naive, too enculturated into whiteness to realize that perhaps the doors that opened for me were closed to others. And still, America is an unfinished symphony. Our page class of the 104th Congress looked very different from the page class of the First Continental Congress. Instead of being all young and rich white boys, we were young people of all classes and races, from both Republican and Democrats, people of all genders and sexualities, people from rural areas and urban centers. And we were all living together and learning from each other. It was our unified belief and love of that aspirational American myth that all people could and should be created equally that brought us to the hallowed ground of Capitol Hill, and our youthful vision of the beauty that could be in the phrase e pluribus unum that allowed us to be formed by each other. The gap between our aspiration and our reality is closing, and we still have a lot of work to do. Like Katie, I wept yesterday too. I wept tears of joy and tears of trepidation for what still may come. I wept tears of joy for the election of the first Black South Asian American woman, Howard University grad, stepmother, member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the first a woman to become Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. And I wept more tears of joy for the many political victories by people in the LGBTQIA community. And I wept tears of trepidation because my heart is still frozen in the moment of the presidential debate when the man who currently holds the highest national office was asked to repudiate white supremacists. And instead, he said, "Stand back and stand by." I wept tears of trepidation because my loved ones are enduring more overt hatred because of the color of their skin, and I don't know when, if, or how that is going to get better. I also wept because I'm exhausted. We worked hard. We worked hard to mobilize voters and to protect democracy in this election, and it worked. The Washington Post projects that once all the votes have been counted, over 66% of eligible voters would have voted, the highest turnout since 1900. We did it. You did it. And our work is not done. Our symphony is still unfinished. American history teaches us in every act of resistance and in every injustice allowed to go on too long, nothing is inevitable. not our democracy, not the bending of the arc of the moral universe towards justice, not the closing of the gap of our aspirations and our realities. As Congressman John Lewis once said and was reiterated last night, democracy is not a state, it is an act. Each note that is the symphony of this nation is written in the choices that you and I make each day, where we choose to shop, who we sit next to at church, how we greet each other, what we choose to read, who we invite to dinner, when we choose to stay silent, and when we choose to speak up. Our work is not done. It continues every day. America is a great unfinished symphony, and it requires each of us to play our part, stay in tune, and continue writing new notes. Our myths are aspirations worth fighting for. So as we continue our fight, I will leave you with these words from the writers of the website Enfleshed, Spiritual Nourishment for Collective Liberation. Keep close to your precious spirit and your holy skin and your brave being and your sacred imagination, the knowledge and assurance that whatever will be, whatever will become, whatever waits for us, we are capable of rising to meet it if we do so together. Together for justice, together for protection, together in solidarity, together in love practiced where and how it is needed most. We will have work to do and undo. We will find beauty to sustain us. We will need to adapt and create and heal and fight. We will, whatever is. So come take your place in the long lineage of hope that persists through empires rising and falling. Try to keep your pace aligned with the spirit. That steady pulse of divine possibilities beating to the rhythms of creation. Slow and grounding, ancient and purposeful, unwavering and persistent, in adamant defiance of anything that comes to steal life. May it be so, and blessed be.
Thank you to the many staff members and volunteers who help make our worship services so special and so meaningful. Thank you to the Reverend Abi Janamanchi, our senior minister, Dayna Edwards, intern minister, Stephanie Williams, worship associate. Thank you to all of our musicians, Dr. Jasmine Lee, Jenny Lynn Moyer, Rachel Moore, Travis Plager, Kevin Miller, the Cedar Lane Virtual Choir, Jenny Crane, Jesse Padalovsky. Thank you for the beautiful, beautiful music you gift us with for all of our services. Thank you to our AV team and visual arts team, Barb Thompson, Michael McCrickard, Todd Chernikoff, Mike Morse, Rebecca Knocktree, Don Woodruff. Thank you. And thank you to our membership staff and pastoral visitors who are active in the chats each week. And thank you, friends, fans, and members of Cedar Lane. I hope that you will join us with your favorite coffee-like beverage or cup of tea for a virtual coffee hour after the service. There'll be a Zoom link at the end of our service in the chat. I hope you will click on that and join us. I hope that you'll join us next Sunday at 11 a.m. for a very special spirit experience to celebrate Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights with the Reverend Abi Janamanchi and musicians and artists from the Indian community. I hope that you'll be with us. I also want to say I love seeing all of the action steps that have been in the chat. And I know it's going to take courage so that we can stay the course as we build beloved community. So let us close with these words from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain,
for purple mountains, majesties above thy fruited plain. America, America, God shed much grace on thee. So spread the love sent from above, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful, thy immigrants who hail from every land.
Their
shall yet remain to greet the poor who reach this shore with open arms again.
Oh, beautiful, oh, Mother Earth, I'll nestle at your breast.
Just as we sing with love and pride, so all nations are blessed. Yeah, America, alone cannot abide. No, God gives thee pause to mend thy flaws with truth, thy only guide. Oh, beautiful, thou working folk built cities, till thy soil. Proud Africans in bloody chains, the wealth built from their toil. Yes, Lord. America, God shed much grace on thee. Yes. So spread the love sent from above, from sea to shining sea. Bring sisterhood, bring brotherhood, from sea to shining